Was 2024 the worst year for comic book movies ever? What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today I'm ranking all 5 of the 2024 comic book movies that I saw. This consists of MCU films, singular, a DC movie, and 3 Sony Spider-Man spin-off villain films somehow. Before I give you guys my list, though, be sure to hit that like button, comment your ranking of 2024's comic book movies down below, and of course, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified for all my future videos. So to be frank here, 5 through 3 are stinkers. They're movies I've talked about very recently in my Sony Spider-Man universe ranking, so I'm not going to dive too much into those, but I'm still going to give you, my quick thoughts. Number 5, dead last for 2024 comic book films for me, is Madam Web. I've said it many times and I'll continue to say it, Madam Web is unwatchably bad. All these Sony movies are plagued by the same issues that I could go on and on about, from the, choppy editing to the terrible ADR, and then you get into the performances themselves, and they're all phoned in, every single one of them. I don't care who the actor is. There are actors I love in this universe. Oftentimes they just phone in a performance, and at that point, the performances stink, but so does the writing. This movie's just a dumpster fire. I don't know why it exists, and the same applies for our number 4, which is Kraven the Hunter. This is like a hair more watchable than Madam Web, and maybe that's because Aaron Taylor Johnson's in the movie and he's a little more charismatic, but even then, his performance wasn't all that. This movie's riddled with issues. It's got 3 villains. One of them's just introduced in the middle of the movie randomly, the Foreigner. And then at the very end, it does the classic Sony thing where the film ends with one of the shots that we used heavily in marketing and the poster shot pretty much, which is just laughable, but it also ends with setting up another villain, and so the movie feels incomplete in a way. The whole thing's a damn mess. It's rushed, it's incoherent, nothing really makes sense, and one of my pet peeves, not only in the Sonyverse, but in movies in general, is when we're hopping from location to location with no logic behind any of the decisions. Why is a character going from New York to Europe and then back to this place in the US randomly, and now we're in a safari? The movie was all over the place. This is a mess of a movie, and the dialogue is laughable. You've heard that term used a lot talking about Sony's movies because it's true. It's unintentionally hilarious if you watch it through a certain lens. But number 3 on my list is the last of these Sonyverse movies, and then we can get into the other 2. We've got Venom: The Last Dance. This sends out the Venom trilogy with the whimper, in my opinion. I was not a fan of this one. I'm not really a big fan of the Venom movies in general, but The Last Dance in particular had some moronic decisions made by characters that infuriated me to no end. It also fails because in the first 5 minutes, it sets up this new big bad villain who's supposed to be the Thanos of this Sony universe, but we never actually see him on screen. He just delivers this deep, ominous voiceover to start the movie, and we see him near the end of the film, and that's that. He's never actually on screen. He's just allegedly pulling the strings behind the scenes, but we never see him, so why should we really care? This movie's a disaster, not as offensively bad as Madam Web or Kraven, but still a stinker. In the middle of this movie is just Eddie Brock in a van with Rhys Ifans for some reason. I don't know if I said his name right, but he plays the Lizard in the Sony Amazing Spider-Man film, and I just don't understand why certain decisions were made. This movie infuriated me. The coolest thing about Let There Be Carnage, the second film in the series, was the ending and the post-credit scene, right? Where it creates this potential setup for Venom to maybe come into the MCU. And that was just done away with so quickly. I mean, obviously in No Way Home's post-credit scene, but also here, that it just frustrates me so deeply. The Venom movies had so much potential, but all of them underwhelmed me. This one, probably the worst of the bunch. But my number 2, my runner-up for the best comic book movie of 2024 is Joker 2, aka Joker Folie Deux. What are we doing? If Joker Folie Deux is the second best comic book film of the year, that was an abysmal year for comic book films. There's no denying it. I don't really care for this movie at all. First of all, at surface level, it is a snooze fest. This movie is a drag to sit through, and it'll probably put you to sleep by the end of it. But it completely flips the script for the worse in this film, right? It turns into a full-blown musical with flat out boring, unimpressive musical numbers that have no flair or pizzazz. They're some of the most bland musical numbers I've seen in a long damn time on the big screen. And on top of that, this entire movie could have been 40 minutes long. It just drags out this conflict, and it kind of abandons everything that was set up in the first movie, which just frustrated me. Again, frustration is a common occurrence or theme with a lot of these movies for me. While I think the movie was a bit full of itself and almost came off as pretentious for a good chunk of the runtime, I still think this is a way more competently made film than the 3 Sonyverse movies. You can tell the director and the, creatives involved are talented. There are some gorgeous shots here, undeniably. You guys saw that trailer, there are some shots where this could be cinema. The movie visually is appealing. There are so many gorgeous shots that are like textbook filmmaking, but then you actually watch the movie and it's so infuriating. I'm sorry, this movie did not work for me. I don't know if it worked for a lot of people. I think most people who saw this were very unimpressed or just didn't know it was going to be a musical because they didn't really market it as one. And so it pissed off all the fans of the first movie, which is not what you want to do with the sequel. And I've seen this whole argument of, oh, that was actually the point, and that's why this movie's genuinely brilliant. I can't get on board with all that. I just think this was a complete misfire. I don't want to see Joaquin's Arthur Fleck dancing and singing. That's just not what I signed up for. Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn was great here, and she has some moments to shine when it comes to singing, as you would hope if Lady Gaga's in your film, but at the end of the day, this movie is highly forgettable. It's nowhere near as good as the first, but if I am comparing it to those 3 Sony Marvel movies, it's leaps and bounds better somehow. But coming in at number 1, the king of comic book movies for the year 2024 in my mind is Deadpool and Wolverine, and it's really no contest. This movie delivered on all fronts for me. Not only was it hilarious, to me maybe the funniest Deadpool movie, but it was action-packed and so well directed by Sean Levy. This man knows how to balance humor and heart so well, and it's action-packed like I said. There are some fight scenes here that really stand out, notably both of the Deadpool versus Wolverine fights. The one in the minivan rocks as we get a little Grease nod with the soundtrack, but also the first showdown when Hell's Bells plays and the two of them go at it. That is maybe my favorite scene in the whole movie. I believe Deadpool says something along the lines of, "Get your special sock ready, nerds, it's gonna get good." And damn, did it get good. Hugh Jackman is playing this new variant of Wolverine. The version from Logan is dead. He's gone, he's no more, but this is a new take on the character and he knocks it out of the park. There's a moment that's so well acted by him where he just lights into Deadpool, goes off on him, and that obviously segues into their van fight, but the fact that he can just go to that place so instantly shows how great of an actor Hugh Jackman is. We also get a scene later with him and X-23 by the campfire where he opens up about his past trauma and how he failed the X-Men in his universe. Brilliantly acted scene, really brought it. Hugh Jackman just knocked it out of the park. I can't say it enough. And the movie has some cameos that are more so surprise characters that got me good. I really didn't know Channing Tatum was going to be in this movie. I had no clue Blade, played by Wesley Snipes, was going to be in this movie. And my God, when they came on screen, it was just one of those event moments where everyone in the theater like kind of collectively loses their minds. There's uproar, applause, cheering, you name it. Like those MCU event films, the No Way Homes, the Endgames of the world, they're special when they hit. It's easily one of my favorite films of the year. You'll have to stay tuned for my top 10 favorite movies of this year to find out where it exactly lands, but I gave it a 5 out of 5. I've seen it like 3 or 4 times. It's one that I'll go to for years to come. It delivered. Again, I'm a huge fan of the first 2 Deadpool movies. If the Deadpool humor is not your thing, you probably won't care for this movie. The opening credits with Bye 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 playing, one of my most memorable moments in a theater this year probably is watching that scene and just being giddy. I loved everything about it. I can't get enough of this movie. It's the first time we got Deadpool in the MCU. Deadpool and Wolverine are a perfect duo, and this movie delivered. I walked out of the theater with a big smile on my face. I laughed. I almost teared up at times. Really is just a beautiful celebration of the Fox X-Men universe, but also Deadpool as a character and the future of Marvel. So this was a real home run hitter. It's a crowd pleaser. It was delightful, and I can't get enough of Deadpool and Wolverine. It is by far the best comic book movie of this year. But that's my ranking of the 2024 comic book movies. Let me know yours in the comments down below and hit that like button. Subscribe to that notification bell and stay tuned for more content coming very soon. But until next time, see you guys later.